and welcome. My name is Emma G, and I'm super pumped to be talking with you today about the power of songwriting and music, especially when it comes to channeling our stress, our overwhelm, our anxiety, and life in general, because it happens. We all have our down days, and what I've been lucky enough to do is be able to learn how to utilize music and songwriting together to help me to go through life and grow through life at the same time. So I have put together a fun presentation, I hope you think it's fun, on how I've been able to turn my life lessons, specifically 3 life lessons in my lifetime, into song. So to start off with, let me share my screen and show you this beautiful presentation that I put together. Okie dokie. So where we go here. The best way to predict your future is to write it yourself and sing it out loud. For me, it's been really important to recognize that your voice, yes, you watching this right now, is super important, not just for your community and for your families, but for yourself more importantly than anything else. So for me, one of the things that I've found really helpful is being able to take those struggles and recognize the lessons, the blessings in those lessons. And I've done that by turning basically every life lesson into some type of song, because your words matter. Ever since I was a child, 3, 4, 5 years old, I used to make up songs all the time. And I think one of the beneficial things about that process has always been that with every song I've written, it's just further elevated the fact that my voice matters. Your voice matters. You often hear parents, teachers, older people, I guess, talk about how, our words do matter, but it's not just the words we're using with each other. It's the words, more importantly, that you're telling yourself. And honestly, from the age of, like I said, 3, 4, 5 years old, I was constantly turning to the words I was using in music, the words I was listening to in music, to help me to identify with myself more, show up for myself more, communicate with other people around me more, and being very selective in what words I used in order to make sure that people were understanding me and my situation best. In fact, this was a song that I wrote when I was, I think, 9 years old, called Words. Now, this is just one of the verses, but it literally goes like this. Aren't you speaking to me through a song, wondering what I'm doing? Well, I'm ready. It's you. Here I stand. You can bleed me till I'm crying, but words are what remain, because words matter. So, in a life that is filled with craziness, it's important to recognize that the only constant we have is change. But like I said before, it's not about necessarily going through the changes that's important. It's about how we choose to recognize and learn how to grow through those changes. Now, you guys watching this right now, life is tumultuous at the best of times, right? You're in school every day, you're having to balance family, social life, studying, everything, TikTok, Instagram, like there's a lot going on. But even in those changes that happen on a constant basis, it's important to know how to roll the punches, how to take every day as an opportunity to become your biggest, baddest, best self. And the best way to do that is to recognize that you have the pen. One of my favorite sayings in the world is from a guy called Peter Drucker, I think I'm saying that correctly, who said that the best way to predict the future is to create it. Now, okay, that's a very plain Jane way of putting it, but for me, I've always kind of been more under the, well, I've always kind of told myself more that in a world that we're constantly being told like who to be, how to show up, how to act, it's important to recognize that you watching this right now actually have the pen. You are in control every step of the way. You are the writer to your own song. So to that end, let me tell you a little bit more about me. My name is Emma Fatima Bosnabalangi Amerigamagami. I'm originally from a small town called New Zealand, or small town called Raglan, in a small country called New Zealand. You may know that from the films, Lord of the Rings films. It's also the place that the singer Lord comes from, or the Flight of the Conchords. But I was born to an American mother from Pennsylvania and a Fijian father from Fiji, where the water comes from. But I've been living here in the United States since May 2015, and specifically in the Washington, D.C. area since November 2015, when I started my music career as a street performer, believe it or not. But that turned very, very quickly into a very busy schedule of gigging in pubs, clubs, corporate events, for private events, for conferences, etc., etc. And now I get to hang out with people like you doing youth empowerment through songwriting coaching. But there's more to who I am than just what I do. You see, when I was born, at the age of 4 months old, I was diagnosed with a relatively rare neurological condition called hydrocephalus. Now, for those of you who know anything about the brain, you'll know that our brains float in water, otherwise known as cerebral spinal fluid, or CSF for short. Now, for most people, that water goes into your head by about 400 milliliters a day and drains down your spinal column, because your brain is, same size, and then your everything's sort of working properly, and there's enough space for the water to get into your head and then exit out. But for me, I have a cyst, which is like a pillow of water in the center of my brain, which means that water can get into my head, but it can't get out. So at the age of 4 months, I had a tube, otherwise known as a shunt, inserted into my head that drains the water out of my head and down my spinal column. I don't know if you can see my mouse here, but down my spinal column and into my peritoneal cavity, my tummy area. This all happened when I was 4 months old. By the time I was 12, your guys' age, I had 10 brain surgeries and 24 surgeries in total. It's a lot of operations. It's a lot to try and make sense of in myself, and it's a lot to try and explain to other people. So what's the next best way to try to communicate and explain? I use music. Because in a world when I'm spending like 5.5 weeks in hospital and getting brain damage, and it was insane. There was a lot of difficult times. It meant that I was missing out on school, falling behind. It meant my friends were no longer my friends anymore. I was getting bullied a lot. I was losing my ability to remember things. My grades started slipping, and I actually got diagnosed with depression when I was 12. Now, that was obviously a long time ago. I'm 34 years old now, but just because I'm no longer 12 doesn't mean that adversity still doesn't happen. Every day we are presented with more and more opportunities to kind of challenge us. For me personally, those challenges have included, but are not limited to, having moved countries. I moved to the States back in 2015. That was a big change. Political upheaval. Obviously, politics kind of affects us all. So when things are kind of in motion politically, especially when you're living in the DC area, things can affect us. There've been, obviously some issues, which your generation actually have been taking a lot of the battle for when it comes to equality and equity. And more importantly, when it comes to learning about your power. That can come with a lot of adversity as well, because as we're trying to figure out who we are, what space we take up, and how to show up for ourselves and for each other, it takes a lot. So again, I turned to music and making up songs. This is a picture of me when I was 3 years old, singing my heart out. Because with every life obstacle thrown at me, I would write a song about it. I feel as if every time there was a lesson, I was able to turn that lesson into a blessing by turning into a song. I wrote about everything. I wrote about my mum. I wrote about my dad. I wrote about living with my mother and not living with my father. I learned about the differences between growing up in a Western culture as opposed to a Pacifica culture like it is in Fiji. I wrote songs about being stressed. Oh my goodness. I wrote songs about my body image issues and struggles. But we all have different struggles because trauma looks different at everybody. Sure, my trauma might look like dealing with politics, growing up between different cultures, learning about human rights and equity, but learning about how to navigate life through a global pandemic, I can't even begin to imagine what it's been like for you guys, because this presentation is not about me, it's about you. It's about your voice, and it's about navigating the adversity that you had to uphold and make through and go through rather. And I hope that I can help you over the next few weeks by helping you to turn those struggles, turn those lessons into blessings, and turn it all into song. So today, I'm going to share with you 3 life lessons I've turned into song because you have the ability to be a superpower. You know, we're going to be working together as a class, and I want you to recognize that, you know, every single person in your class is beautiful and magical and powerful, and we each have something of importance to bring to the table because there really is strength and diversity. And last but not least, you know, I want to leave you with the, what's the word? Leave you with the message that, or the recognition rather, that no matter what it is that we're faced with, no matter what it is that we're going through, we're constantly given a choice about whether or not we want to show up for our fear and anger and disappointment and negativity, or if we want to show up for our positivity, our hope, our love, and our sense of community. So on that note, let's talk about your inner superhero. I'm going to do that by showing you a song. Let me stop that share and now share my screen.
What's going on?
Hold on, she's on the talent. Hold on. Who are you? You're not the mayor of this city. Hold on, no. She's showcasing that. No, she's showcasing her talent to us. If you don't like it, you can keep going. No. She is showcasing her talent to us. You're not the mayor of this city. You don't run up and over here. If you don't like it, you can keep going. You can keep going. Seriously, nah. You can keep going. Go ahead.
push away the pain. I would, if I could throw it all away, I would. I'd be the voice of sunlight on a midnight train. I'd bend over backwards to push away the pain. Inside this madness, we rise. Inside this madness, we fight. When the angels open their eyes, how their hearts break to realize all of the mistakes we've made at what price. Where's our superhero tonight? Okay. So that was a bit of a brief look into one of my methods of turning struggle into song when I first moved here. Because life in America, especially in Washington, D.C. back in 2016, was very different compared to life in New Zealand. So what I did was I turned that into my own theme song by recognizing that every opportunity that we have in life to show up for ourselves is an opportunity to be our own type of superhero. Because for me, a superhero is somebody who recognizes that love, compassion, empathy are all superpowers in the fight against things like bigotry, bullying, fear, and injustice. Next pivotal life lesson that I learned very quickly when I moved here to the United States is, especially in the face of adversity, like I showed you just now in my superhero music video, it's about the power of diversity, the power of community, the power of one another. And so I, not long after writing Superhero, wanted to put together another song that just gave me a little bit more hope, because I think it can be really lonely for some of us when it comes to feeling like, okay, so I have to be the big person here. I have to be the person that saves the day, or the person that people rely on. When in actual fact, it's not about you or me, it's about us. It's about we, right? So I wrote this next song, Together We Rise, to celebrate that fact. Let me share my music video for that. Have I done enough? Do I make it up? I know I've dreamt about this for so long. Am I good enough to carry on? Empty page, my doubting brain. Though I know it's what I need to do, can I bare my soul and live my truth? I've written line after line. If I'm the hero in this story of mine, I feel it beating my heart, coursing through my veins. The magic of fear is learning to rise again, breaking the walls we built in our minds. The magic of love is together we rise. Together we rise. Okay, so those kind of songs, being able to turn your lessons into blessings or your struggles into song, it's incredibly powerful when we know how to do it right. And that's one of the things that I'm really excited to show you over the next few weeks, in that we each have the power to take life's proverbial pen and turn our struggles into song. So before I wrap up, I'm going to show you one more brief song demo that I created back in the day. Actually, I wrote this song in 2020. I set myself a write a song a day challenge because I too recognize that sometimes I need a little bit more to kind of keep me on track and keep me motivated and keep me inspired. And so I heard about the tale of two wolves. Now, if you're unfamiliar about the tale of two wolves, it goes like this. A grandfather is talking to his grandson about the two wolves that are living inside of us at all times. One of the wolves is the wolf of fear, hurt, anger, bigotry, judgment, so on and so forth. Basically, all things negative, right? The next wolf, the second wolf, is the wolf of love, peace, hope, happiness, positivity. But these two wolves are battling all the time. And it's important to recognize that in that fight, you actually have the ability to help whichever wolf you want to have win. So when the grandson was listening to his grandfather talk about these tales of two wolves, he asked his grandfather worriedly, okay, well, which wolf does win? And the grandfather replies, well, whichever wolf you want to feed. So that's why songwriting and music have been so pivotal for me, is because every song that I have ever written, with every song that you're going to write, it's an opportunity for you to recognize your voice and what wolf you want to feed, what wolf you want to have win. You actually have far more control over that than you might even possibly realize. So on that note, let me take you to 2020, or 2021, I should say, when I wrote this song, The Wolf I Feed. And I hope that it just serves as a bit of a reminder for you about how much power you have in this situation. Let me try that again. Okay, so that's pretty much the end of what I wanted to talk to you guys about, because at the end of the day, this whole presentation, as much as it may have sounded like it was about me, it's not. It's about you. It's about what we're about to do over the next however many weeks, when it comes to helping you to turn your stories, your power, your struggles into song. And I'm really, really excited about figuring out what your song is. On that note, before we meet on Thursday, or whenever it is that we meet, I want to know more about what your song is, remembering that, over the next couple of days, before we do catch up, I want to sort of encourage you to start writing down your thoughts, remembering that you are loved, that you are love, and everything you could possibly need lives within you. So what I mean by that is taking that power from in here and putting it onto paper. Start drafting out, writing out, diarizing, if that's what you want to call it, your thoughts over the next few days, so that when we meet for the first time in person, we can start turning those struggles into song. At the end of the day, that's what this is all about. Remembering that you have the pen, that you have the power. It's not about what the world tells you to be or who the world tells you to be, but about your ability to recognize that and step into that power for yourself. My name is Imogen, and I will see you soon.